Welcome to the Darkstream, Voxday, voxday.blogspot.com, and of course, Arkhaven Comics. Tonight, I'm going to talk about both what we're doing at Arkhaven with Alt Hero and what Marvel is now doing according to its new editor. Now, a lot of people were wondering if things were going to change at Marvel at all. They were curious to know if anything was going to change. But what has been very publicly announced is that Marvel is doubling down, indeed you could say they're tripling or quadrupling down, on diversity in comics. This isn't a surprise, of course. We expected it. But this is confirmation that nothing's going to change, even though they've got a new editor-in-chief, and the downward trajectory of the quality of the storytelling, as well as the quality of the art, is almost certain to continue. The direct quote, and this was from a piece on Bleeding Cool, the direct quote from C.V. Sapolsky, I think his name is, was that even though it's been brought up numerous times that people are unhappy with the direction that Marvel has taken and the direction that DC has taken, they are going to continue to pursue that direction. I'm going to put some direct quotes from this up on the blog tomorrow so that people can see exactly what's going on. But this is confirmation that they are not going to make any change. Now, let me show you a little bit of the stuff that they're doing. Now, I'm not entirely sure that these first two are from Marvel. They could be from DC, but they are an accurate example of the SJWism that is currently rife in comics. So here's an example of, I believe it's from Batgirl, so in which case it would probably be a DC. But this is a very action-packed scene where these girls and friends are talking to a young man who has declared that he's a woman and is upset because they went to the clinic to discuss fertility. They went to the fertility clinic to discuss their options, and apparently the doctor, and I quote, misgendered her. Now, regardless of what you think of the nonsense of transgenderism and so forth, especially in a context where you're talking about fertility, the idea that this is an interesting subject matter, that this is the kind of thing that anyone really wants to read in the comics industry, I think is pretty far from the truth, and obviously the fact that sales continue to decline tends to indicate that. I've actually predicted that by the end of the year, total unit sales for the top 300 selling comics is going to be below 70 million, which would be a 21st century low. We'll see whether that actually happens or not, but a decline, a third annual decline, is already baked in the cake. Here's another example. This is a fierce, I don't know whether it's supposed to be a transgendered individual or not. It's hard to tell, but you can tell it's very clever because they're saying Control Alt Right Delete and kicking a white male in the face and knocking off his Make America Great Again cap. Now, the thing is, maybe this does appeal to some people, but I'm guessing that there's considerably fewer anti-Trump people rather than people who are maybe on the left but don't necessarily want to read about this sort of thing either. So, but it gets considerably worse. Yeah, both of these examples that I've shown you are real. They're from actual comics published by major comic publishers. Now, this is not from a major publisher, but this is where it's going. This is an example of a project that's being put together. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to push lesbian, bisexual, gay, and transgender activism in a comics anthology. And so this is an example of the fine art and the fine storytelling that is on exhibit from these diverse collection of creators. I'll zoom that so you can see it a little better. This is apparently a lesbian comic, although it's kind of hard to tell because the art is so bad. And what I think is interesting about this is that you may recall that we had a lot of criticism, not just from the left, not just from the SJWs, but also from places like Diversity in Comics and that sort of thing. And so I thought that was interesting to compare this art with some art that I was literally just working with today. Here's an example of our current art for the comic that I'm currently working on. Actually, that's not the one I want to show. Where's the other one? There it is. So this is art from a forthcoming Archaven comic. Just, straight up line art. We're actually a little bit behind. What you see on the right there is a little bit behind what you see on the left, because we haven't even begun to put any of the lettering in and so forth. And so I find it interesting that we get criticized for our art, whereas the art on the left is actually praised, lionized, considered to be fantastic, and all that sort of thing. Let me give you another example. I'm going to pop up the example that's actually from, I believe, DC, just so you can do a direct comparison of what we're doing with what they're doing. So here was that piece again. This is the bit from the fertility clinic, and this is the finished version, fully colored, lettered, etc., etc. Here is an example of our art, and not only is there considerably more action, considerably more plot, and considerably more storyline, but I think if you simply compare the art, you can see that even though we're about, 7 months and 1 issue into what we're doing, that it's already advanced in some ways beyond a lot of what they're doing. And so, you know, I mean, I take it seriously when people criticize the art and so forth. You know, I look very closely at what they're talking about. Sometimes they've got a point. You know, I'm not claiming that everything that we do is state of the art, fantastic, perfect, whatever. You know, I can personally attest that you know, from working with the from working with the balloons on issue number 1 on Crackdown. Excuse me. Hang on. You know, what I can attest is that, yeah, the balloons, we needed a little bit of help. And so, you know, we're going to work to improve that. You know, we've already improved the font. If you notice, the font for the Italian version of Crackdown is a different and I think slightly better font than the one we were using before. And so, you know, we're new to this. We're just getting started, and yet I think that you can see that our stuff is not merely competitive with what they're doing on the technical side. In some ways, it's obviously better. And so let me give you one more example. And again, this is stuff that hasn't come out yet. This is from Alt Hero number 2, which will be coming out in a couple weeks. And again, you can see that there's a lot going on. You can see that there is a storyline. Grazie, sono contento per ascoltarla. Scrivi una rivista, per favore. But you know, the art there is more dramatic. There's more action, and I think that you're going to, if you like the story and if you like the characters from Alt Hero number 1, then I think that you're going to see that, you know, the story is just as strong, the characters are just as interesting, and we are continuing to work on improving our technical angles, our technical production. Now, I haven't seen the actual print edition yet. I've got mine on order, but I've been told that the production quality of Alt Hero number 1 is very good. I can't attest to that. Again, I haven't seen it yet. But if you haven't gotten a copy yet of Alt Hero number 1 Crackdown, check it out. I mean, if nothing else, you should check out the Kindle edition, because if you've got Kindle, if you've got Prime or Kindle Unlimited or whatever, it's totally free. And the print edition is just that much better. So, you know, we are committed to making this work. We're committed to continuing to improve. You know, we're not going to, you know, we're not just going to, you know, we don't have any laurels, so we're not going to rest on any laurels and so forth. But again, you know, compare what we're doing to the kind of stuff that is being featured on comic sites like Bleeding Cool. What you see on the left, literally, is what they're pushing. They're trying to push all this diversity. They're trying to push all this social justice. They're trying to push everything from this LGBT propaganda to, you know, and it's just going to get worse. You know, I mean, there are already some examples of art. There's a Hulk cover in particular that looks like it is pushing at least implying that it is pushing pedophilia. And so, and that's coming next. They are not, Marvel is not going to stop here. What you're seeing on the left is not the limit of Marvel's degeneracy. It's just the starting point. And as Marvel's editor-in-chief specifically claimed today, that they are 100% committed to that diversity. They are 100% committed to that degeneracy. It's not going to stop. It's going to get worse. And the only thing that is going to stop it is the success of things like Alt Hero, things like Jawbreakers, and we are going to have to beat them in the market, and we're going to have to do so with your help. We can't do it by ourselves. We're going to produce this stuff. We'll do the best that we can. But we need people like you supporting our crowdfunding campaigns, picking up the comics, telling your friends about it, all that sort of thing. Here's a question. Is it that they feel the comics don't matter, the movies matter, so why not just hand them over to the SJWs? No, not at all. What Marvel is doing is that they're moving the movies left too. They're going to be. And so, you're going to see, this is the current cultural battleground. And what you're seeing with what the Diversity in Comics guy is doing, what you're seeing with what Ethan Van Sciver is doing, and what you're seeing with what we're doing, is that this is the first time the right has gone on the cultural offensive in decades. And so, if you want to stop sitting on the defensive, and if you want to help people like us take back the cultural ground, you know what to do. You've got two alternatives. One is just sitting around and watching the SJWs take more and more cultural ground, destroy more and more of the things that you used to treasure. They've destroyed Star Wars. They are destroying Superman. They've already destroyed Wolverine. They've already transgendered Thor. It's going to continue, and there's only one way to fight back, and that's to take the ground back. Ultimately, we need to replace them. We need to beat them fair and square, and we need to demonstrate that this is what the market wants. That what the market wants to see is the kind of stuff that we're doing. They want to see real heroes. They want to see real men, real women. They want to see good and evil, and they want to see good defeating evil. And so, the important thing. Let's see. This is interesting. Somebody says, I was told by 2 agents I needed the heroes to be gay and or female in my novel. and they would take it on. Well, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, that's an absolute must, because that's what they're pushing. They're pushing propaganda, you know. And so this is a good comment here. By the time normies see SJW in an influence in a thing, it's usually too late to just say no. Anita Sarkeesian being a guest of honor at Gen Con this year is just that sort of normie wake-up call. That's correct. I mean, by the time everybody is aware of what's happening, it's usually too late. And it is too late to restore Marvel. It is too late to restore DC. They're gone. And so the only way to fix the problem, the only way to address the situation, is to get behind things like Alt Hero, get behind things like Cyberfrog, and help make them happen, and help them defeat this degenerate diversity that is being absolutely pushed as relentless propaganda by Marvel and DC. So with that, I'm going to get back to work and finish up this next issue of Alt Hero. Thanks so much to all of you who have already picked up a copy of Alt Hero #1. If you haven't yet, check out the reviews. They're pretty good, and I think you'll enjoy the story. So have a good evening. We'll see you soon.